variables is today. Some of you have any of you heard of Avendus?
Awareness?
Okay. It's the number one tech investment bank today. We almost died. But
India Games, the same
yeah,
sort of a
yeah,
story was
yeah.
with India
India
Games.
Games, yeah. So the thing why these companies succeeded and the other didn't is because they had conflicts within the founders that actually stopped them from achieving their vision. I know of at least one company where I know all the founders very well, very successful company, and it finally came apart because one of the founders felt that he had done most of the founding and done all the hard work, but there was another founder who was getting all the media coverage. The company fell apart just for that reason. So one of the things that one was saying, one is to say to all of you, is don't let that come in the way. Find a way to deal with it. It's not a good reason for companies to fail, because if you have 2 or 3 or 4 founders, you will find that at different times, different people will be contributing more. You all have different skills. Somebody may contribute more at the beginning, somebody may contribute more in the middle, somebody may contribute more in sales or finance. So don't take a snapshot at one point in time and say, listen, they're getting the credit, I've done all the work. It's a bad idea. The second way is the organizational issue we were talking about. That if there's good definition, if you're not stepping on each other's toes of who's got what strengths and what are they doing, and give sufficient space, sufficient empowerment to what people can do in their own spaces, it does 2 things. One is it actually creates more capacity. So instead of 4 of you doing the same thing, now you have 4 of you doing 4 different things. So you have more capacity. There are more things that you can do. Less chance that you will be fighting with each other every day. And now you can have your review sessions where you have discussions on strategic issues. This goes down below the founders too. If you're growing, you're going to take on people who are high quality people. And if you want high quality people to come to you, apart from the fact that you will have to share ownership or equity, you'll also have to share your authority. Because if you don't, then the best people will not work for you. They'll go somewhere else. And more than you as a founder, they will look for a definition of what can they do, what is their role, what decisions can they take, not take. So unless you create this sort of layers of people, it is going to restrict your ability to grow. So your growth, to a large extent, you may get the financing for it, your unit economics may be right, but if you haven't done this part well, then you'll start to stumble because it'll get chaotic. You will not be efficient. So the organizational part, feel free to ask more questions, because it's not about setting bureaucracies, but it's about setting in place some systems, some processes, so it's not chaos. With 2 people you don't need it, but with 500 people you do need it. You do need to make sure that it functions well, and structures are changing. So it's not like the very hierarchical structures of 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. You can have structures that are more flat, but it doesn't change the fact that everybody needs to know what they're doing, what they're accountable for. Do they have the authority to do that? Do they have they been given the right responsibility? So people still need to know that. How will they be judged? So all of those does need to be defined, because if you don't have that, then people will think that you're evaluating your people or your team on whims and fancies. And if people think you're not fair, then you will lose them. So you need to put in place all of these structures to be able to scale. Otherwise, growth and scaling becomes a big challenge. Please feel free to.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, we don't want to be talking at 20,000 feet. We need to be interacting at where you think there is something that we can say that connects with what you're doing today. So feel free to.
So we have 5 minutes left. So if there are specific areas that. By the way, how many of you have in your plans a global strategy? And how many already have sort of gone global? Okay, two. So I think part of the entire growth is also to have a global strategy, and you can very often stumble. You can do very well in one geography, but have a lot of challenges going ahead when you are going global. So
So maybe there's two quick points I'll make on sales and marketing, and PG can actually talk more on that. He's more knowledgeable than I am. That the two things. One is be very clear who is your competitor and who is the channel to market. So very often when we're building a product and taking it to a market or a service, we see organizations whom we think are our competitors when they could actually be your channel to market. So be very, very careful when you look at that piece. And the second is the whole area of digital, social marketing, because the way to go to market is changing. So that's one area that I would say, and PG can talk about that. I would make just one more comment on financing. When we're raising finance, a single biggest issue on our mind tends to be the valuation. How can we get capital at the highest valuation? And I would caution you on that. It's a good thing to think about. So clearly you should only raise money when you absolutely need it. And the more you have validated your concept and all that and raise money, the better it is. But don't get very stuck on just valuation issue, because sometimes if you raise money at a very high valuation and your company isn't actually quite there, then when you need more money and not enough has happened on the ground, you will find it almost impossible to raise money, because you don't want a down round. Your first round investor will dig their heels in and they will say, you can't raise money below the valuation I got. And you may find that actually you can't raise money. It's very hard for you to raise money. So be careful and think through your 2 or 3 stages. The first stage is the one where you can actually go wrong on valuation because you're raising less money. Every stage you're raising larger and larger money. So we're raising 3 or 4 crores at the first stage, you'll be raising 30 crores at the next stage. There you need to be right about valuation for sure. So I just want to leave it with you that make sure that you're raising money from people whom you are most comfortable with, who can add value, because that will more than compensate for the little bit extra you may have given them. But make sure your path is not blocked by too high a valuation in the beginning.
No, absolutely. I mean, when this valuation question comes, I always advise that if you leave, let's say, another, say 5% on the table, okay. So suppose there is this huge negotiation going on and the difference is between, say, 10 to 15. Now, what have you given up? You have given up from 90 to 85. All right. So you've given up some 5 odd %. What has the other guy gained? He has gained from 10 to 15. He has gained almost 50%. Okay. So therefore, that guy will be then working for you to ensure that there are better gains that happen, right? So do look at that. And on the issue of marketing, these days there are lots of ways by which you can measure the effectiveness of marketing, digital and social media. You can get your ROIs very, very quickly. So I think it's the days when you said that 50% of your marketing budget was getting spent and you did not know which 50% was effective and which 50% was ineffective. That is changing. It may still be there that yes, you have to spend larger amounts, but the effectiveness percentages are things which are changing because of the ROI that can be measured. I think there is a complete session on that. You know, security is also another area which is very important for growing up, and I think we have a separate session on that. So I know of a company, a startup, where there was a DDoS attack, and post that it took them almost about 15 days in terms of recovering to their earlier level of traffic and interaction, etc. Okay, now that can be absolutely disastrous. So look at those sort of things also. Saurabh, thank you very much. I think it's been a very interactive session, and thank you for being a nice, kind audience.
Thank you, PG. Thank you, Saurabh. Before you go, I'd like to invite on stage Sandeep Majumdar, Chief of Operations North at Cephei Technologies, to present a small memento to our esteemed speakers. So, Sandeep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sandeep. Okay, so our next session, I hope the interaction was useful, and if you have any questions, just keep them ready. Our next session is basically about, how do you really build a data-driven organization? Now, I think as a digital venture, managing data is extremely crucial because you're actually living in day out on, digital technologies. So without really being able to have, the right kind of data-driven approach to be able to analyze what you're getting, I mean, it's impossible to manage an organization like that. And we have an expert for that, to come and talk on that, Kumar Ashish Saxena. He is the co-founder and CTO of Red Doors. And he's seen a lot of ideas, see light of the day, and especially having worked with the travel industry and has extensive experience in delivering a lot of technologies in a lot of renowned travel organizations, including Make My Trip and Last Minute and Zuchi and, British Midland. Extensive experience in delivering these technologies, and he's going to talk to you about, how do you really drive a data-driven culture in the organization. So, Ashish, can we request you to come on stage, please?